Okay, my name's Michael Miller. I'm artist in residence at Albright College. I was contacted by Brandon Ward, who works for Residence Life, because I have experience coordinating public art. He had a space in the quad that he was interested in creating a work of art for that space, involving students from the first year students in the creation of that artwork. Yeah, I graduated originally from Kutztown University with a degree in graphic design, and that did not fit well. After a couple years, I returned to Kutztown and got my teaching certificate in art. And then I taught for about 28 years, public school, high school, and elementary school. And yeah, I left that about 2 years ago. And in that time, at the beginning of my career, I had worked with Adele Shade, who directs the Total Experience Learning Program, and she had invited me to work in the summer program here at Albright College. And after I had left teaching, she said, "Hey, Mike, what are your next steps?" And she really saw the work that I was doing becoming a part of the program that she was building here at Albright. So after doing a couple summers with her, she said, let's see if we can build a studio that, because up till that point I was doing a lot of public art. I was teaching a class at the high school where I was working, but then after I had left, I was making art in my basement, in garages, this collaborative work. So now to have this space to make work is just like a dream come true. Yeah. So now it's, when Brandon contacted me, I said, let's talk about this. And then he had two artists in mind that he recommended for the project, and they have been spectacular.
So my name is Brandon Ward. I'm the area coordinator here at Albright in the Office of Residential Life, and I oversee the quad, which is all of the freshman housing on campus. I think Mike has taught me that you do not have to be an artist to enjoy art. I am no artist. I am literally just an organizer, but Mike has involved me, in the project in a way that allows me to still feel as though I am valued as much as the actual artists themselves. And I think for the Albright community, we want students to look back at something that they did, right? We want them to feel proud about Albright, the community. And I think the mural allows for students to see their actual input in our res halls, in our college. And I think it's just a perfect opportunity for students to be involved outside of sports and other clubs. In terms of for the community, the goal is to expand this. Maybe we can partner with, local nonprofits and have students actually do bigger and even more creative projects on campus, not just in res halls, but in buildings all around campus. So that is the goal, to continue this as something that the students are leading on campus. I was new to this, and I always thought murals were just one time, one and done, but Mike has exposed us to a new way of doing this. So I think, when you wash away, it's not necessarily you're getting rid of it, but you're concluding a memory of these students' lifetime, right? So their freshman year, when we wash that away, it is washing away memories, but something that they can take away. And then every year we can build on that. Yeah, and I think the first phase itself, we've already got, comments and feedback from faculty and staff and also students that the first phase it's going extremely well. It looks good, right? It's something to look at. I think the second phase it's a mystery. I am no artist, so only the artist will know, but I am excited for what Mike and our two student helpers will be able to do, and I look forward to seeing it.
My name is Ladera Robinson. I'm a junior. I will be graduating in 2025. So I grew up in Philly, PA. So when you go out on the streets, even when I took the SEPTA in the morning to get to where I needed to go, I would be able to see like a bunch of mural art pieces, and I always grew up like in love with it because I just love art in general. I love seeing color everywhere. So seeing those murals growing up, I was like, wow, this is kind of cool. I wouldn't mind making a street mural when I grow up. Surprisingly, I got there. So I don't know, I just think art mural is just a great way of making an area feel a little bit more like home and to put a little personalization in it. Well, my role in the We Pace Mural project is I help design the art, the overall piece, and just help put it together.
Okay, so how was working with Mike Miller?
It was fun. He actually came in and helped us with the actual mural part. So like in the We Pace to actually put up the art, and he was very, trying to look for a word, his wisdom was very helpful in us actually achieving what we was trying to do. So my takeaway is murals are pretty hard to work with, that you have to actually plan it out well in advance. I know that over summer I was on campus and I would meet with him occasionally and we would just talk about the details and then draw out what we wanted to do. I even helped tweak some of his ideas. Originally we was going hand draw and then blow it up by hand, but instead we decided to do it digitally because I was able to find a way for us to do it digitally. So I guess overall working with murals, you learn that there's a way that can be done, but you can always add on to that way. And he was very open-minded and encouraging me to find other ways or to find other methods.
My name is Caitlin Lipton and I'm a junior. 2025, I'm graduating. I was approached for the project, probably because I was an RA and also an art major. I really felt honored. I've never led something big like that, and I've never had my art be something that is more than just me doing my thing in my room. It has been good, a really great experience. I haven't had much background in painting murals, especially outdoors, or being in charge of designing one even, and he was a really great person to lead me through that. I now have such a greater appreciation of community artwork, and that art can be really amazing when it's a combination of a bunch of different artistic minds instead of just me forefronting my own thing. Because it's temporary, that makes it almost better because communities change as the people in them change, and especially since this is a mural in a freshman quad, that changes every year. So that'll make people feel like they're a part of it every year. I guess the biggest struggle was trying to figure out what to do. And since Ladera and I and Mike all have slightly different artistic styles and what we find the most visually appealing. For example, Mike likes really geometric shapes, and Ladera and I are more towards organic shapes. And we found a way to combine both and make more meaning come through that. With what I was saying before, how Mike liked the geometric shapes and we leaned more towards organic, the way that we combined it was having the background be black and white, geometric, very pattern-like. And it would have a bit of the past year in it, since this is a generational type of project. The freshmen from the previous year, they were able to be a part of it by writing down everything that they wanted to tell the new people coming and everything that they felt like described their time living there. And the second phase, more organic, kind of bursting through the geometric sizes. And that includes the future and the present, talking about things that the current upcoming freshmen wanted to have as goals. When the first phase was finished, it felt really good, but I wasn't completely satisfied because I knew that there was still so much more that I needed to do. And also that was when we started not having as much time to work on the mural because school started up and I'm a student first. The biggest challenge for the second phase is going to be finding the time to do it. our schedules are very different, and we find it best to work on the mural together, but that gives less options of when to do.
So yeah, last year was my first year teaching a college level class. I taught some students. It was neat because I was able to give them the experience of thinking about design, which designing for public art is a lot different than just creating your own personal work of art. You have to listen to a lot of people and adapt and compromise, and oftentimes things occur that make you have to go back to the drawing board repeatedly because you're not hitting the mark for what the community or the space demands. So I love giving students that experience, although sometimes it can be frustrating for them, but that's the reality of it. So working with Caitlin and Lyderia, I kind of guided them through the project, and we were, researching, talking to the previous year's first year students to get some feedback from them. But then also as they began making their sketches, we would share and critique, and I would give them feedback, they would give each other feedback. So it's really, I don't see myself as leading it, I see myself as a voice that then we're having this conversation together to create the best possible work for the space. Here's the full design. So the design gets enlarged. It's all created to the scale of the wall. And this wall is kind of interesting because it has 5 windows. So when we created the design, we turned those windows into real windows of our sort of imaginary street of our scene. So that was a little bit of a trick, and I think it's gonna, really sort of be neat when it's finished. The blue lines in this diagram indicate each sheet of the mural material. So basically, the image gets posterized, which is just like a filter that we apply to the design. The original design was created using the digital drawing program Procreate, and so then using Photoshop we posterize it. Posterizing it breaks it down into solid shapes of color. This allows us to manage 30 people painting this at the same time. If we had 30 people in here painting at the same time, allowing them to shade, it would be pretty chaotic. So my specialty in art is really bringing people who maybe don't have a lot of art experience and give them the necessary tools to contribute to these projects. And they look up close, they look pretty abstract, but once you see them from a distance, they begin to, your eye begins to interpret the form of the imagery. My inspiration for, I guess, what lit my fuse to create public art was a friend had invited me to go on a mural tour in Philadelphia. And I had seen, I saw these neighborhoods, and as the person who guided us on that tour just was explaining how these neighborhoods had been neglected, impoverished, and when the Mural Arts program had identified and created this work of space, all these ripple effects occurred that kind of, built the community up. And I, just living in Reading, I had seen some, smaller murals created, but not what I had now kind of call landmark murals, just bigger in scale that really kind of embed that philosophy into it, but giving the community input into what the artwork says, and then living in a space that's visually interesting. When I was teaching high school, I said, do you think that living in or going to school in a space that's filled with art makes you feel better about being there? Do you think it makes you study harder? You know, you can see all those things, and they, you know, their initial reaction was a little hesitant, but then after they thought about it, they're like, oh yeah, I can see how it is a, you know, I feel as though living in a visually interesting environment, and that can be public art, but that can also just be design and architecture too. It nourishes us. I think it's a quality of life thing. It's just like having electricity and, you know, heat and air conditioning. I think we need to be in spaces that are visually interesting. When we're not our bodies, we don't function to our highest. Yeah. So you know, kind of as I was beginning to be interested in making public art, I embedded a lot of that same philosophy in the work that I was doing here, and I saw the benefits of it. And I've been doing it for probably close to 20 years now in the city, and you can just, it's just so neat to watch some of the permanent pieces aging, but even some of the temporary ones that, you know, people will talk to me years later and say, oh, I remember. So I think it allows people to have ownership of a space that they don't necessarily own in a financial way. I see the importance of having, you know, collaboratively made artwork here on campus as being important, especially as for first-year students. I remember that was probably the period of my life where I felt most awkward, you know, starting college. You just don't know who you are. All of your comforts are kind of, you know, not there as you begin. So I felt like that's giving them the opportunity to sort of leave their mark on a wall that they're going to see for their entire first year, I think was kind of a neat way to really get them to feel like, yeah, this is where you belong. This is, you know, this is your home. I feel like I'm still a rookie with this medium. The first project that I installed about a year ago, we did it over near Berks Nature, and about a week after we had installed hundreds of posters, they already began peeling and falling off. So I was, yeah, a little devastated by that, but I'm like, okay, what did we do wrong? What do we need to fix? What do we need to look at? And since then, I've done a few more installations of the posters, and I feel like I'm learning to, it's an interesting formula where you want pieces to last, but you don't want them to be there forever. You know that they're going to fade and go away. So yeah, the second big installation we did probably earlier this summer was over at the Heritage Center, the Berks County Heritage Center, and I did that with a group from Total Experience Learning's summer program. And that one's going really well, even though we had like a huge downpour the day we installed it. So yeah, when we started installing, you know, they were like, is this going to stay? And I was watching, and even the day that we worked with all the first year students, you have varying degrees of glue application. It's really, I mean, it's just flour and water is what we're using. So you can lick your fingers as you're making it. That's what street artists like, you know, who really do we-paste work, like probably the most famous artist I can think of is Shepard Fairey, who, you know, was, you know, famous and notorious in Providence, where he was, you know, began to do his work. But, you know, he's world famous. So, yeah. So I think I'm really pleased with how everything's going so far, and I think the next phase is going to add some. I feel like we've created a good background with the posters, and then I feel like the band that we're going to add on top of it is just going to, everyone's still engaging with that first layer, And I think this is going to be kind of a surprise when they see that next layer kind of form, that, you know, the art doesn't necessarily have to stay static, but we're going to kind of leave it as it is for a short time and then begin to add the next phase. So then it kind of becomes new again. And that's where I like this manner of making work, because it changes. Yeah. I think it was, now that it's all, I mean, complete or gone is probably two ways to describe it, but I feel like the process of making it, I've learned a lot about just sort of the working, the best way that to work with the materials in the coming, you know, in new ways to install it. Hopefully we can create a way that it will last longer than it did.
So now that the project has been completed, I feel very good about it. I think that the students had a chance to really get involved. If there was things that we can change, I think that we should work in smaller groups so that students can feel more a sense of community with the groups at which they work. I think the larger group setting just kind of made it a little crazy and chaotic for myself and the artists.
I was excited. I was happy to see how far we came, and then to see how far it was going to go, especially with seeing all the color and seeing like just our thought process finally being on the wall and just having that physical piece of what we was all thinking.
I really enjoyed working on it, and I would love to do something like that again. I think it did meet my expectations. I didn't hold many expectations, and that's probably why. But it was looking the way that we were expecting it to look.
Good. I think the students who were involved in it, especially the Ladira and Caitlin, were really just, I think the work highlights their, you know, their talents, and I think they did a nice job of listening to the input from Brandon Ward and the previous year's students, giving them input on the themes that they addressed in their artwork.
I want to say, first of all, thank you to Mike. Mike was fantastic. Mike does a great job of really motivating students and really encouraging students to get involved in art, even if they don't consider themselves to be artists. The two student workers, I had a great time working with them. They are also RAs. They've done a great job of managing their busy schedules, but also dedicating themselves to a project which we did not know how the outcome would be.
In the beginning, we were excited, and we're still excited to see how the new idea comes out for the mural, but we was all excited, and at the end, I was happy to see like residents walk past and be like, wow, like that's really our mural, and like I can't wait to see it's done. So like, I guess there will always be that question of like seeing people's expression on campus and just seeing like their full excitement and their full happiness behind it. Like we got to see a small portion of it, and I really wanted to see everyone see it and be like really happy and be like, wow, that's literally a part of me. Like I made it through this tough year, and that was me in the beginning of the year, and this is me in the end of the year, and they turned something that was a part of me into something bigger than me, and something that will reflect what I am going to be after college, or even once I graduate college. Someone who is a part of a community, who was able to build on themselves as well. So I want to say open-ended because of all the possibilities.
I think the word might be connected, because it really worked with a lot of different groups to connect them.
If I were to explain my experience in one word, it would be groundbreaking. That doesn't mean that it's groundbreaking in general to society or anything like that, but we experimented with many different techniques that we did not know the results of, and then we found the results. And it was also groundbreaking for me getting a new perspective on what I can be as an artist.
The word would be uplifting. I think we did a good job of providing an experience for a freshman class to feel hopeful about their time here at Albright.